All right, folks, I think we are live. This is Welcome to Brace for Impact. I am John Ford from Organizing for Better Tomorrow. We're joined by the whole group who's in here. We're doing the quick little reshare issue because Twitter is still having issues with Restream, just in time for us to start using it, as one would hope. So as soon as I figure out how to share my message, we're good to go. We got a lot of things to talk about today that are, just a lot of things to talk about. A nice whole lineup. We're actually getting back into the advocacy portion of everything because it's time. Oh, there it is. I had to scroll a little bit. We are back to advocating for things. We're not sure what to do with anything just because everything's on fire, and we're always trying to guess at what the best thing to do is. But we got this VRPAC meeting coming up, which VRPAC has not been gutted, but there is still some changes coming up as far as I understand it. But we're looking at influenza variants are going to get chosen right now, so that's a whole thing. But that means we need to start looking at COVID variants, which means it's time to start advocating for earlier COVID vaccine updates. We had pushed really hard with the previous administration. We were slowly moving the COVID vaccine release up earlier and earlier to align with the school year. In a perfect world, the vaccines come out in like mid-August, so there's time for kids to get vaccinated before they go back to school. We are almost certainly, we're going through all the data, and we'll get to this later on a little more. But basically, we're almost certainly going to have an update for Novavax. mRNA always needs an update. So we're going to be, we've been kind of, for the last couple of years, we've been working on COVID variants and working with the government on like talking about choosing variants, and that's how we got all the Novavax timing, all these sort of things going on. And so it's back to start thinking about that because there's a lot going on with all the different variants, and I think picking the next one is going to be really challenging. Which it is always a challenge. it's always it's hard to tell. If it was just like mid XFG, that would be easy. But that XFG is a great example of something that like comes out of nowhere. Like it showed up sort of late in the game, like about a month or two before we were making the decision on sticking with JN1 and going with LPA1 for mRNA. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the variants sort of go. But it is time to start advocating for the earlier COVID vaccine update because we did kind of, I feel like, have a setback this year because of Novavax's late approval and all sorts of other things, which it feels like that's just standard procedure. Got a little late. One year we got it a week apart. But we kind of lost some ground, as one would expect, because the NIH and all of its groups are just an absolute, the clown show. That's what we should really, this is the clown show. If it wasn't handling such an important part of our government, like public health, it would be funnier, but it's horrifying. But just an absolute clown show. Even when they do something I kind of agree with, they do it in a way that is just like, God damn it, guys, what are you doing?
They're still wearing that big red nose.
Like this Moderna thing they just did.
Yeah. Well, Moderna did change their stuff around. They did do what I said, apparently they did change their filing, and there's a new study and all this sort of stuff. But, like, the not accepting it at all was just the wrong way to go because it caused so much. I heard Trump called Marty or whatever his name, I always mess up his last name, McCary, called and yelled at him, or at least that's what they were talking about in that interview. Actually called to yell at him because he sees mRNA as like some big validation of his role with vaccines, which is such a funny juxtaposition of his where his supporters are actually at. But and the clown show with those guys just goes on and on. We do have a second issue I wanted to say. If you are getting Novavax, one of the things we want to do is start advocating with the pharmacies that are selling Novavax, which is mostly just like CVS and Costco, if Costco even has it still, to stop pulling the vaccines in the middle of the month when they're good till the end of the month. That seems like kind of like not a big issue until you're trying to like time your stuff and you're like, well, it's good till the end of the month and I want to wait as long as possible, only to find out that they returned it all and there's not going to be any. In the past, there'd be no batches at all, but Sanofi says that what are we, May 1st? Is that going to be the next?
May 31st.
May 31st, thank you. May 31st.
And by the way, I just wanted to add on Novavax. Last year, we did get approval at the same time as the mRNA shots. So we should be on a standard playing field when it comes to that in the future as well.
Right,
'Cause
right.
We got it
right,
last
right.
year.
The BLA
That was
was
the
late.
first time we got that.
The BLA was late. That's right. My apologies. Thank you for straightening that out. Yes.
Right.
yes.
Well, Sanofi basically, they wanted to wait for ACIP until they released last year, which is what the main issue was.
Right. So it was the release. Right. It's so easy to mix up these events, how they all kind of like happen. It's it's like I feel
know.
like you see that in the public a lot.
It seems like something happens against Novavax to delay it each year. It's hard to keep them in order, yeah.
Right. Yes. And we could just check any other year and fill that box, no problem. But I feel like we are actually. I feel like Jesse gets a win. I feel like we should turn to Jesse, and the illegitimate ACIP has been temporarily canceled because of a pending lawsuit from the Academy.
Saying that they're illegitimate.
Because they're illegitimate. Yeah. What is it? The Academy of American Pediatrics? Is that as AAP? Is that right? It's one of
American
those.
Academy of Pediatrics.
American Academy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So that they have a lawsuit pending, I'm to be honest, I was surprised. I was asking, is there like a government order or like a court order? Like they shut it down on their own because of the pending lawsuit. I was actually pretty surprised by that. Because it's just that, so they just do they know they're just totally in the wrong? Like that's what I want to
Do
know.
they care?
I mean, enough to shut it down.
I guess so. Yeah.
They didn't do public comment either. They didn't set up any of the stuff we were waiting for, and it just never came. I don't think they really know what they're like doing, and I think they're kind of.
They don't know what they're doing, and I'm not sure they really care all that much.
Yeah,
He
I
did
don't
randomly
know.
fire everyone and then just hire a whole new group of people that weren't vetted at all.
Well,
When vetting only can take like 2 years.
Yeah, vetting is. Well, they can do it in 6 months if somebody is like qualified and doesn't have a lot of like questionable stuff.
Yeah.
Because we did. Let's not forget. I think everyone forgets that we got a whole new ACIP in the last year of Biden. Like a whole new ACIP. Everyone got revetted. All new members. So this ACIP that got removed was like brand new. They had all just been vetted. So like their removal, I think that's probably one of the things that made me the most like, what the hell about the whole thing was him going on about how they have a long-standing corruption problem or whatever. Their membership is, but it was all new members. We had just gotten all, because the original ACIP we were dealing with when we started with Novavax was like kind of grumpy and difficult. They weren't like the nicest people. They were all right, but they weren't like like Verpac is very friendly. They're kind of a little grumpy. And the new ACIP was like excited to take emails, and they were like talking to our people, and there was this whole like communication with the public that was going really good. And RFK came in and just took that. That was such like, it really gets on my nerves that we like literally reformed ACIP by pressuring the old ACIP members basically into resigning. We got new people, and they were excited to do it and be in with the public, and then he just removed them and put these. I mean, they're like, I don't know. What am I allowed to say?
Anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
All of them are anti-vax.
I was gonna say kooks. Can I call someone a kook? Like the stuff.
Yeah,
like,
you can.
Like the stuff that they say is like, okay, that was kooky. That was kooky. Sure. Okay, I
Everything
heard.
that comes out of them is from an ideological position. It's not really usually from anything else other than that. Every once in a while they land on something that's not so terrible, but also they shouldn't be there.
Right. I think there is a thing to say that like the people who are more professional tend to be more amenable to like corporate positions. But the thing that I think that these people don't understand is like they're going to push that corporate position whether they're amenable with you or not. Like you can be grumpy with the corporations, but they're still going to like get Trump on the phone, and Trump's going to call you and yell at you. And you're going to have to go and approve or at least look at their vaccine in the end. You know what I mean? The corporations figure out a way. Like I think this is like where the corporate oligarchy aspect of it comes in, because they have controls of the purse strings and the highest power, and all the stuff that happens at the lower end. Like, you can be tough with them if you want, but you're not going to win. Like, that's why when we're trying to do it, all we can do is try to navigate the best possible outcome, and like, you kind of got to include those groups. They're like, yeah, okay, we'll do that, and then they would still come back. Like, every time we would get some sort of win or something, and everyone would agree, like, we were not going to update or whatever. I do think the update to LPA1 was the right choice for mRNA at the end of the day. It still wasn't as good as it could have been, but I do think, like, looking back at it, that was the right choice for them. It's just they come back and like change things after the fact because they have control of the purse strings. They'll go to your boss's boss and then get your boss's boss to do whatever, and then your boss is now telling you have to do something a certain way, and that's what they do. So all you can do is try to find some sort of like copacetic middle ground where it all sort of like, you get what you want and they're going to get what they want, and we're over here fighting. Not involved with Novavax as a company, but you're trying to give people the better vaccine, the better protection from COVID, like across the board. Then you're fighting for like 1 or 2% of market share. Like, they don't give a shit. They'll let you fool around with whatever because they have control of the big, the purse strings, as I mentioned earlier. So it's and that's, I feel like, we got ACIP canceled, but we do have this VRBPAC coming up, so I don't think ACIP is canceled forever. Because ACIP has to verify what VRBPAC said, which I think is going to be a fucking mess. Like, when ACIP has to meet to verify the influenza vaccines with all these new people, because last time we just like rubber stamped it behind the scenes. They didn't like have meetings that the public could go to.
This is the one where they're going to select the strains.
Yeah, for influenza, right. which usually they just go with what the WHO says. Because influenzas, the only thing, like, we have like 8 points on the influenza vaccine. I'm not going to go over them all right now. We're going to put something out that you can look at it because public comment is open. But I feel like a lot of it's just starting around, like, if we're going to move to combo vaccines, let's make sure we have all of the vaccines, both the non-combo and the combos available. And we had a bunch of points, but mostly it comes back around to starting to advocate for earlier, because you're talking to VRBPAC. And VRBPAC has to decide when their next meeting is going to be, and they need to decide that meeting is going to be earlier than when it normally is in order for the timetables to work out so the vaccines can come out earlier. So we need them to meet about a month earlier than they normally do. And the problem is how that aligns with the WHO. So we kind of need the WHO to really come out a month earlier, which this is all conversation that we've already started having. Like, the cool thing is, the last VRBPAC, we had this conversation about meeting more often and meeting earlier. This is a thing that is kind of already kind of minutiaed into action. So there's definitely a potential to sort of drive that conversation. I still think we're going to be not quite there, but I feel like we can get a little closer, or at least, I just feel like all this stuff moves very slowly. Like, during the pandemic, everything was so an emergency. So things move very fast. But now that we're into like the normal...
You said during the pandemic now, Don.
Well, to them, the pandemic is over. What do you mean? They're not meeting like it's an emergency anymore, like during peak pandemic, But you're right. I was about to correct myself because we are still in an active pandemic. But you could say that about influenza is still an active pandemic, which is sort of like, oh, that's why they were fine with doing with COVID. Like, that's apparently we're just like, how many pandemics? I don't know. Gotta catch them all.
Oh, God.
Speaking of gotta catch them all, apparently we got Jay. I got two ways I can go with this, because you got Jay Bhattacharya, who is the NIH director, taking over as CDC director, and then you got RFK and Kid Rock drinking raw milk in a grotto like they're in some sort of softcore fantasy novel. Like, I'm not sure where they were going with that. I'm just like...
I was waiting for them to like take out the burgers and start eating them like the Carl's Jr. commercial.
There was
spilling milk on each other's chests.
Oh.
I'm so puzzled by the whole thing. Like, people had to approve that, right? Like, is it just he's the boss and he's like, we're gonna do this? And like, What was the joke you guys were making in pre-call? He's a never nude.
Well, yeah, I just saw that there's a big sewage spill on the Potomac. Maybe he'll want to take another swim.
Oh, like I said, got to catch them all. Oh,
But
man.
All the brainworms.
his genes will remain on.
Yeah, exactly. Is he gonna wear his jeans when he jumps in the Potomac? That's what I'm wondering. The jeans in the bath. So like also like if when you get in those baths, you're supposed to like clean off first. So you've been in like a sauna and you're getting into this shit. Like the whole thing was just like, oh my god. And then
Maybe-
yeah.
Maybe he has a contract. Maybe he works for Big Levi's.
I will say though, in the video they are talking about whole milk, not raw milk.
Oh,
Even
okay.
if that tells you, even RFK isn't saying you should drink raw milk,
Oh,
so
okay.
you probably really should avoid it then.
I thought for sure they were. I saw someone say they were drinking raw milk, but that makes sense. Yeah, there's. Are they saying like
Does the body good?
Shit. I hate my internet. All right, we should be back now. My thing's picking back up. It's showing one. I gotta figure out why. No, back to zero. We're not getting internet.
Stop. Rosie out.
Okay, I think I'm gonna be okay. We're working it out. It says technical error. Apparently, we've gotten everything and where I live slowly fixed. We used to have like power outages. We got that fixed. We were having water problems. I got that finally fixed. And then now it's like, what is up with this internet connection out here, guys? Get it together, Los Angeles. So, can anyone hear me
I can hear you in here.
perfectly? Well,
Yeah, I can.
we're still going. It should be back up and running now on the thing. So I'm back in the green. I
think YouTube never cut out.
what's that?
I think YouTube might have never cut out.
Yeah, it doesn't cut out. It's YouTube doesn't give up until the what's it called stops restreaming. So sorry about that, everyone. I'm gonna have to delete because there's gonna be like three of them on Twitter. But I guess that's good reason to listen to us on YouTube because YouTube doesn't cut out when we have this problem. So if you're listening to us live and you want to listen to the whole thing, check out our YouTube. It's OFABT. It's Organizing for Better. And it's all under Organizing for Better Tomorrow right now, I think. Or is it the BFI one? I need to check. Which one does it go to?
It's the initials.
Oh, it's the BFI? Or the OFABT?
No, it's OFABT.
Oh, okay, yeah, the OFABT. Oh, right. It's at OFABT at YouTube. Right. But we are. I think we're back.
It is, and it is still streaming just lovely on YouTube.
Okay, I'm just trying to keep a real attachment to. I want that feeling like our government is failing. You know what I mean? My internet is failing just like our government is because we're basically talking about how leaving off at the RFK and Kid Rock, the CDC are on ice, and I feel like this is a good chance to segue into. There is a bit of a scandal with ice brewing that, but it's not. Oh, right, because I got to share it on Twitter. Right, I have to share it again. Hang on, let me. Because Twitter isn't automatically sharing, so you have to get my mouse to show up, and then go back to Twitter, and then go back to the thing, and then click on my live, and then click on the thing, and be like, oh, part 2, because internet sucks. This is good for the replay, right?
People get to see all the background machinations.
Well, you know, it's whatever. Real people doing real things. There'd be
That's
a lot
right.
of, like, if we had like an office and we're like in a position with better internet, that would be would definitely fix a lot of problems. Hypothetically. But I feel like this is a good segue into there's a scandal brewing with ICE that no one is really talking about yet, which is the sale of these buildings. So apparently some people were going over the numbers and that they were selling like way over market, like One of them had a 99 million. So we're seeing these numbers, right? We're seeing like 135 million to buy a facility, but then that facility is only aimed to house like 5,000 people, and you're like, what? How does that work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're spending all of this money. It sounds like you're buying a prison, but you're just buying a warehouse at super inflated things. So there's a whole scandal on who they're buying these warehouses from and how much they're buying them for, and the whole thing.
I'm shocked.
I know,
Yeah.
right? So it might be a new grift that they're selling it for like one of them had a $99 million margin, one of them had like a $20 million margin. So there's these huge profits that people are taking from the government on these facilities that are not equipped
The
to
whole
handle people at
government is
all.
a grip.
Yeah,
The whole government's a grip.
it really does. It does seem that way. It does seem like
Remember Halliburton's the unbid contracts that they were doing? They were kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, no bid
No bid
contracts. Yep.
contracts, that's what I was trying to say. Yep.
well, they
Search
want
wherever they hunt for items and just ring it up.
Well, yeah, under Cheney, that doesn't surprise me though. Like, they had that because Cheney was super corrupt, and he basically became the vice president so that he could set up that deal.
Loot the government. That's
This
what
is-
they're all in there for, I think.
He was appointed to find the vice president, and then he appointed himself for Bush
Well,
Senior.
hey.
He was given that job.
He found him, didn't he?
He didn't have to look far.
No, he did not have to look far. Yeah, that his whole story is, you can't say he had no heart because he had like 6 of them.
So yeah, it's sort of not surprising that they're doing this with these warehouses.
Yeah, because that was the one thing I found really shocking about it. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to lock up all the dissidents, and you're like, they would need housing for like a
In that
million
one?
people. Like, how are you going to do that with a 5,000 person unit? I mean, it's still horrible. Don't get me wrong. Everything they're doing is horrible. We need to stop them. We need to cancel these. We need to free everyone. I'm not okay with any of it. Don't for 1 second misunderstand me. But when you're talking about sheer numbers, that's just not enough space to handle the amount of people that the problem they're trying to diagnose would take. Like, they want to
Alleged problem.
right, they would have to like use a whole city. Like, you'd have to turn a city into a prison and like force everyone to like live in a cooperative city. Like, you can't.
Escape from New York.
Yeah, basically. Well, that's less cooperative, but yes. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to be like lock everyone away and like the zombie outbreak happened. You know what I mean? Put them all in like some sort of camp.
But the announcement that they were doing that did manage to terrorize a lot of American citizens.
Well, it should, because it's horrifying.
And it should.
Yeah, and America has a history of internment of Native Americans and the Japanese and
Japanese.
everything we've done to black people forever. One of the things people were talking about, they're really trying to segue the stuff we see in, there's this whole TikTok trend, which I think it's good. It's shocking, but important. Talking about everything we're seeing in the Epstein files happened during slavery. Like, everything that we've seen, every bad thing, like eating
Well, you think the
kids
cannibalism
and
did?
all this stuff. Well, one thing that always gets me in the reason, this is sort of unrelated, but it's related, because they're like, well, humans wouldn't do that. Do you know why we have a shortage of mummies?
A shortage of mummies?
Yeah. We have a shortage of mummies, like from Egypt.
From Egypt?
Yeah, from Egypt, because they used to have parties where they would bring them and everyone would eat it.
What?
Yes, mummy
Who was
eating
that
parties.
news today?
Mummy eating parties were a thing in history. Kind of like renting a
Who's they?
pineapple. Rich white people.
Did they think they were going to like get the power of the
I
gods? or
honestly
something? Like,
do
what
not.
was this?
I do not fucking know. I do not know. If
Mummies
somebody wants
do
to
not
fact
eat
check me
mummies.
on that, feel free. Have at it.
I will, because I'd never heard that. That's
Ye-
wow.
Yeah, the problem is they used to be taken to parties and like unwrapped and eaten.
Like a present.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Point is that humans have done bizarre shit since forever. And yeah, we used to just be like, "Oh, they used to rent pineapples. How silly!" They used to eat mummies at parties. And you're like, "Oh, I didn't need that." So when they talk about like parties where people ate people, that has been a popular thing throughout human history. So don't think for a second that's not a thing. Oh, I hope people are Googling that right now. This is why it's on the good stuff's on the second stream. I think we're picking up somebody's sound. Donna, we're picking up your TV again. So we got this Verpack on the most awkward segue ever. No. But I think when we go to ICE, I was going to talk about Verpack, but because there's an influenza thing coming up, but I forgot. We had two little sections about how distracted we are. I think it's appropriate for the distractions. The ICE scam, all these different scams that Trump is running. I think that the next one is going to war with Iran. Because I heard he said that in 10 days we'll know whether we're at war with Iran. And I said, you know, it'd be a really good way to find out we've gone to war with Iran. Not that I support a war with Iran, because I don't. When Congress voted on it and approved it, that would be the time. And I think that, like, amidst everything, I think that this use of wartime powers and how he's using the military should be an impeachable offense. Like, this should be a violation of his role as president, and like, it should be enough to take him in front of, like, and be like, the Republicans should be on board too. He should not be going to war unilaterally.
It wouldn't be the first time, though, unfortunately. Other presidents have basically done it, too.
Yeah, but this is a different build-up, because this is like going to war, attacking someone, and going to war like we did in Iraq is a little different. Only in the sense that anything is going to war. They do these little black stops. I don't agree with it. They should be impeachable. It should be whatever's happening. But the magnitude of movement. Have you seen the maps of the planes and troop movements?
The ships, everything that's being moved into place there? Yeah, I have seen those maps.
It's staggering. Like, we had this the whole time. Where were we to back up Ukraine?
It's a bigger military buildup than Iraq was, and it's like this. He didn't get approval to do this.
No.
Iran didn't attack us. This isn't like we're not under threat, really. We're in a negotiation, and I didn't hear that he gave them 10 days, but the last time he gave them 2 weeks, he attacked 2 days later.
Right.
So,
do you think this has anything to do with Netanyahu getting a parade or whatever it was of security to the White House about a week ago? Do you think those two things are maybe related at all, or
they may be.
Am I sounding like a conspiracy theorist?
No, what did Netanyahu say? The buildup got twice as big after Netanyahu left.
Right.
And Netanyahu left. He looked a very happy man when he was leaving. And
But
he started changing the asks he started wanting to get rid of the ballistic missile program and no enrichment at all, and changing sort of the terms of what anybody was even talking about before that. Like, he's setting it up to fail, the diplomacy.
What? Netanyahu would never. What a absolutely in character thing for him to do.
And that's sort of the question: like, is Israel going to attack first, and then we'll just be there to with that huge military operation.
The thing is too is like I think at this point it's sort of like it's like let my little brother hit you or else sort of vibe. You know what I mean? Because like we talked about this on the last show, the missiles that Iran has, the hypersonics, are intense. They've had plenty of time to build them, plenty of resources, and they land faster than they can reload the Iron Dome. So they'll send all these littler rockets that are slower, expend the Iron Dome, and then just hit them with those hypersonics. And if they did have a nuclear on one of those hypersonics, it's game over, because...
And they said they're not going to hold back this time.
Yeah, they can't stop them.
Last time, I think it was pretty choreographed, like what was going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. because they were showing them what they were capable of. It was like two birds pompous around trying to get the attention of the other birds. But now I feel like we're in this like really dangerous, like they could be hitting a lot harder. Also, the nuclear deal is gone, right? So they could have nukes already, if and not be in violation because there's no agreement. So we're trying to like rebuild that, but we have no idea. And so it's sort of just like you have no idea what can happen.
That's another part of it, is that Trump is the one who canceled the JCPOA in his first term. So we could have had a working deal this whole time. So he's working to get a new deal when he's the one who canceled it. It's kind of ironic.
It sounds so Trump, though, because Trump would cancel a deal just so he could have the Trump deal. He'd pass the exact same deal just with his name on it.
Right.
Like just the exact same thing.
But there is a number that this group put out that I called today. Demand Progress. They put out this number. It's 1833 Stop War, and it's pretty cool. They're urging people to call Congress because Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie have this Iran war powers resolution that they're going to bring to Congress, and they're urging us to call this number to get Congress to vote yes. I'm not really sure why we need this. I thought this was already a thing, but this is specifically about Iran. And the cool part about calling this number is it basically, you put your zip code in, and it instantly puts you on the phone with your congressperson, and then it puts you on the phone with each one of your senators right in a row, and you just stay on the phone. And they sort of give you a little bit of a script of what they want you to say, but the main part about it is to get Congress to vote yes on this Iran war powers resolution, because this is going to be a real disaster. It won't just be Iran and Israel. They're not going to hold back. They said they're going to start to go after our bases. They might shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which would really mess with the world economy. Maybe try to take out some oil-producing countries. I keep doing that. I guess it's the same thing. Oil-producing countries, oil.
I don't know. At this point, I feel like you could interchange company and countries, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye.
That's what I mean. It's interchangeable. but yeah, please call that number. We need to stop this.
What was the
I don't
number
know
again?
if we'll stop it. The number is 1833 Stop War.
Yeah, I heard war is bad. I don't know. Feels like that. Did everyone forget that war is bad, or we just kind of like we have robots that do it now? Pretty sure humans are still dying. Yeah, but they're brown. It's fine, and you're just like, oh my god, white colonialism is the freaking worst. Which I think is a historically accurate statement to say. Now, coming into that, I feel like you're looking at. I know Russia, who I don't even know how they're pulling helicopters out at this point, delivered helicopters to Iran. Which I was informed I had to stop calling Iran during the pre-call. Apparently, like, you like pronouncing things wrong. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me. But we also have where China's going to stand in this whole thing, and there's just a lot of talk about like I heard
Russia and China joined Iran in the Straits of Hormuz yesterday for some exercises. So
exercises, great.
Yeah, exercise with live ammunition.
Great.
So
make sure everything works.
Yeah, make sure everything works. So we really have no idea the implications of what this unprovoked war would do.
Right, because it could like destroy our entire everything. Because if like we go into an active war and China is against us, how does that? I assume that will disrupt trade. Like I would assume there's a trade disruption. Because I heard UK Starmer is so nervous he's not letting. And I heard maybe something about Canada too, but I couldn't find anything on the internet. But they were talking about how they're not letting them use UK airspace out of fear that it will seem like if they do attack Iran, that they're like that would make UK bases a target.
Culpable. Yeah.
So there's a whole thing that they're not allowing that space. So it's even like, because I mean, you say you're going to steal Greenland and go to war with Europe, and you're not allies with Europe anymore. Why is Europe going to take any risk for you? Which is the only thing that makes me wonder, because Starmer is in pretty hard in Israel's pockets too. Like he's a self-avowed or attested Zionist. He doesn't talk about it a lot anymore, but he used to talk about it more. Just I wonder how much of this is just like Trump being like a dementia patient.
Just being led around.
Yeah, like because like no, I mean Starmer I feel like would be more inclined to go along with it if Netanyahu was like pulling all the strings on this. Like I feel like he's just more like pushing Trump to do something because he feels like, the Nobel Peace Prize people were mean to him or something.
But Israel really needs
Which Navalny, or not Navalny, God, the Ukrainian guy, that my brain isn't working.
It's okay.
Zelensky.
Zelensky got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Trump's got to love that.
Yeah.
Maybe Zelensky can come over and give it to him.
Oh my god. What a loser. She's like, here's my... How did she win a Nobel Peace Prize, like, of all people? Like, I still don't understand that. She seems like the least peace-driven person on, like, in the top 50 least peace-driven people. I was just like, are you kidding me? But I did misspeak a little bit, speak about Epstein and Trump and everything like this, because if you're talking about Trump, you were talking about the Epstein files, because it should be the Trump files. I did misstate that they released more files on the last show. They did not release more files, but they just found more terrible ones. That's actually what happened, which just to clarify, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. You can just keep digging and finding more and more stuff.
Yeah, it was not new, but it was new to us, but it wasn't new releases because it's all terrible. But don't worry, Trump's going to tell us all about the aliens. He's got the real files, and it's the alien files. I'm surprised no one's made an X-Files joke.
Whenever some scandal starts bubbling, they start talking about aliens again.
Well, apparently you have the X-Files and the triple X-Files. Sorry, no, that was... I feel bad. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. No, it's pretty wild, the attempts to be like, oh, this is, derail people's public interest and, like, make them, like, oh, look at this distraction. And you're like, okay, but what about the other thing? And you're like, we don't need that anymore. We have this other new shiny thing. And you're just like, does that work on people? Is that a thing that works? Apparently
Yeah.
it is.
Each day, like, something new happens. Like, Prince Andrew got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a new little development in the Epstein thing. Oh, and Les Wexner testified.
Yeah, and his lawyer threatened him on shut the hell up, dude. He said, if you answer this with more than five words, I will kill you. And they laughed, and then But he was saying all kinds of stuff about the Rothschilds and yada yada and all this stuff. You're just like, that's going to take a couple of days to unwind.
I only watched the first hour of it so far. It's like 4 hours long.
You made it further than I, sir. Yeah.
He just keeps on saying that he wasn't Epstein's friend. Like he didn't really he knew him. He was a business relationship. He took care of my finances, but I wasn't really friends with him. I don't know any friends who give me that much money. I don't know why anybody hasn't said that yet, but maybe they say that in hour 2 or 3 or 4.
I have no idea. I find the whole thing so curious. He seems like such a go-between. You know what I mean? Like he seems like the money that he gave him wouldn't really have been his money. It would have been money that he cleaned for someone else, so nobody knows where his money came from. Because he has all these businesses, right? So he has all these businesses, so cleaning, a couple $1 million is no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we keep hearing about all these banks being involved with money laundering, so they probably laundered someone else's money so that it wouldn't be, where did Epstein give his money? He got his money from Les Wexner. But Les Wexner probably didn't really give it to him. He's just a go-between.
I want them to ask about the Iran-Contra planes. Did you hear that story?
No. Please continue.
The planes that they were using, the Israelis, to bring to ship the weapons back in the 80s, somehow ended up at Wexner's place in Ohio. And Wexner ended up using it to ship clothing, like to ship lingerie and, Victoria's Secret stuff and all of his stuff. So it's just it's very strange.
Yeah, the whole thing is very strange. I can't help but feel like it feels like it's like everything in our life a Mossad. It's like this. They always have these conspiracy theories saying everything is Mossad or everything is Russian intel or everything is, and you're just like, well, I've seen Americans are basically complete idiots and buffoons. So it kind of makes me believe that there is some organized thought process. Any of this stuff is happening from one of these groups who kind of has their like shit together. Like I just feel like our American CIA has really lost its luster in the sense of controlling world governments. Now Trump is just like, I'm just going to take their stuff. We used to do this like gentlemen. Sorry, that was wrong. That was
It's amazing that Epstein was in that deep that early on. Like to be able to get an Israeli plane that the CIA was using. Like it's crazy.
It's only
Janice, how did he get started? I mean, he was a nobody from Brooklyn. Once the network gets going, I can see how it can build and build. But how first identified?
He got involved.
Who first set him up to be this
so
guy?
so actually, I heard this whole story. So basically, one of his students' fathers was a big guy at some investment trading firm, and so they had become friends. And so when he got let go from teaching because of poor performance, he got hired by this other guy because his whole thing was like he was a weird dude, but he was apparently very sociable. So like he knew how to like manipulate people and work people. So like he became friends with this guy, and then he got this opportunity, and then that put him in the room with all these financiers, and then somewhere in there everything went like super spy. Like in the midst of that, there are a bunch of like connections made, and then he connects with what's his name in Israel, the prime minister.
Barak.
Yeah, and so just kind of like there's a little bit of yada yada. But I heard somebody break it all down, so we do know all the connections and how he got from point A to point B. There's just a little bit of yada yada because it's like he gets into like the financier socialite sort of world. And like once you're in there, it's sort of like, who can you go get a drink with? You know, a lot more of that culture is just is like the socialness of it. So if you're like a sociable person, because he didn't get into financing from financing, he got into financing from like a sideways thing. So all the financing guys are boring.
It's like that woman. What was that woman's name? Who Anna something, the one who was pretended she was a socialite and she started just like getting money from people.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is. But then at some point he got real money from real people. Maybe he pulled some kind of scam too in there in the midst of it. He sounds like the kind of guy who would have some sort of scam. He also won the lottery twice. So like that's
He won the lottery twice?
At least once for sure, but yeah, he won the lottery. He won the like a millions in the lottery. And a lot of people will joke about that's like a way to clean money. Because it's like a type of laundering. So you like rig the thing to give the person money. This is back before we had just Citizens United and you could just like directly bribe politicians. So it does seem like there's a real effort in this guy's history to hide where his money was actually coming from. You know? And that's, I feel like Les Wexner kind of gives that opinion. And they're like business associates, he gives them assets, he gives them stuff. But I suspect a lot more of it had to do with he didn't talk to Les Wexner when he needed stuff. He talked to an assistant or a thing or a booker or a person who handled the calls. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a lot of these women who are in this Epstein files are not, I mean, they are participants because they're in there doing it. But a lot of it is they're like assistants of the guy who's actually doing the crime. You know what I mean? Because everyone's like, they don't write their own emails. Trump doesn't even have a computer on his desk.
Right. He's a telephone guy, Trump.
Right, yeah, well, you know, from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m., and then after that, they got to sundown him.
I just thought of something. Do you guys remember when he got caught doing a voice and pretending he was somebody else? Trump? He used to call himself John Miller. This is kind of like the Baileys.
Baileys.
It's like Trump's version. He used to call like newspapers and like journalists as this guy John Miller.
That's
and
weird.
to basically try to get stories written about himself in a positive light.
It's to John Barron as well.
Oh, really? He had an alias? Another one?
Yep, John Barron.
And his son is named Barron?
He named his son after his
Alias.
character.
That is the most Trump thing possibly ever, though. I'll just give the man that. At least he's consistent. Awful. Just awful. But then again, if we do get to find out about aliens through all this, I guess that's a win. Chalk up a W. We are... so we were talking about VRPAC, the one part of our government that still kind of works the way it's supposed to, at least for now. They're going to be going over influenza, which means it's time to start talking about COVID variants. And, our group's been involved with, we've done presentations and all sorts of stuff. And we're going to be pushing for an earlier meeting, which is something, so at this VRPAC, we're going to be pushing for an earlier meeting of the next VRPAC to talk about COVID variants. Hang on one second. We're going to be meeting in to talk about COVID variants, which is going to be tough because we got BA.3.2 has turned into RE. We got NB.181, which has a bunch of subs, including this earlier XDV1 that are kind of all in the same sort of vein. We have persistent XFG throughout the whole country. So you're going to have some sort of mix. And I expect to see something that's kind of like a combination of all of those together that hasn't like shown its head yet. We are seeing a push of BA.3.2 because of the REs in Europe, but we're not really seeing that manifest the same in America. But that could change. I mean, the data is very slow here, so it could change on the flip of a hat. We really don't know. So it's time to start watching that. It's time to start getting ready to advocate and push for that, so we can get it right, because I don't know. They've gotten it questionably right. I think the KP2 was the biggest misstep so far, besides all the original Omicron strains, because XBB 1.5 was the right decision, and then it was JN1 instead of KP2, right? And then JN1 I think was still the right decision, though XFG would have been better. But it kind of worked out because of how the Novavax product works. So, like what we said in the presentation was, either people are going to be getting their second JN1 shot, so that'll increase the range of their antibodies, or they should be switching to 2. One of the things I will be saying, though, because of we already have it so that you can get a shot every 2 months, pretty much in all conditions. That's how we as an organization were a major part in setting that up, because when I was telling people how to get the Novavax timing, it wasn't really officially allowed. You had to kind of like jump through some hoops. So we went to the government and asked them to make it the official timing. But for this, I feel like there's this whole conversation happening, kind of brewing, about the memory responses, and it affects what variants are happening in what countries. And you have 2 choices for strategies. You can either go back to the early Omicron vaccine strategy, which is different vaccines for different parts of the world, which I think is a mistake because it makes things really complicated. Or you have to give everyone 2 doses again. And then that starts a conversation about whether or not they should be getting 2 doses of mRNA or 2 doses of Novavax. And I feel like you're in this position where the best thing that could happen is people getting 2 doses of Novavax, because it would update everyone's memory responses. Technically, you can do it with 1 Novavax, but it would also get people that higher quality response and be more... I mean, if they want to ignore COVID and they want to pretend like COVID doesn't exist, even though we need clean air, nothing here I'm going to say devalues the needs for cleaning the air or any of the other protections that are necessary. But when you're talking about cutting transmission risk, if you had a population of people who were unmasked, all with Novavax, that would make all the masks people are wearing a lot more effective, because you would have fewer mask failures and less transmission. So your mask would actually be more effective in that environment. So people are like all about masks. It's like, well, getting the best vaccines into the population will make you safer, even when you continue to wear a mask. So I should say respirator now that we're trying to demask ice. It really is a big difference. But we want to push for that earlier meeting, and we just, in general, we really want to get this right. So seeing about trying to use this, because I do feel like there's going to be more anti-mRNA stuff. Maybe Trump will step in and stop it. But I feel like if they want to act like COVID is not a thing, they've got to be getting people the best protection, and the mRNA is not updating people's memory responses properly. So we're going to start running into issues that people with mRNA are not getting updated the way we need them to be, and so they're still responding to, like, the way their immune system responds is to their old memory responses. So basically what happens is, let's say let's go with KP2. Let's say you got your vaccine, or let's go back to Delta. You got your original Delta vaccine, right? You got a bunch of those. So that is your immune memory response, right? Theoretically. If it's not the wild type, let's say you joined then, you got a bunch of Deltas. Your immune is set to that. When you get just one mRNA a year, it doesn't overwrite that initial Delta immune response. Some people call it original antigenic sin, but now that we understand it better, I don't think it's a good way to look at it, but that is what they call it. So,
and that's whether it's vaccination or infection.
Right.
Okay.
But with vaccination, with mRNA vaccination, for some reason, the immune memory response is stronger than other immune memory responses. I don't know why. I don't understand it. We don't really understand immune memory responses that well. We just kind of know that they happen. So, I mean, you can get into the fine-tuned details of it, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to which type of vaccine or infection people had at the start. And people who got an mRNA tend to have stronger immune responses to the wrong variant. So you've gotten a bunch of Deltas, but then you've only gotten one XBB 1.5, you only got one KP2, and you only got one LPA1. Your immune memory response has not been reset because you need 2 exposures to the same antigen. So you've got to get 2 vaccines. But then you run into the IgG4 issue, where if you get 2 mRNA COVID vaccines, it causes the same problem as the DTaP vaccine. And this is why they've been avoiding it, except in certain groups, and they want them spaced out to offset this problem. But we need people to get those 2 shots close to each other. So you're back to, if people are going to get the best responses, they really need to be getting 2 Novavax and updating their memory response and getting a new priming series. So there you go. There's my 12-second pitch, because I feel like that's the angle we're going to go. We're picking up somebody that isn't me. How dare you talk to? Yeah, so that's kind of like the angle. And then I got 2 things. I got last 10 minutes. We're only going to do an hour today. I got 7 minutes. I got 2 bones to pick. Number 1, I'm under the impression that some people are thinking that I am lying about the work that I have done when I was the grassroots strategist for the Bernie movement from 2016 to 2020. I think 2015 really, but really 2016 in earnest. And I think that it's Terry. Terry, you're a little hot right now. We're getting a little.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So some people, I've come to a conclusion that, 'cause someone said to me, why don't you go lie about working for the Bernie campaign or something, doing strategy for the Bernie campaign? And I think people have misunderstood what I've been saying, and I'd like to offer some clarification. So just to be really, really clear, I did not work for the campaign. I at no point have said that I worked for the campaign. I was the grassroots strategist, which meant that people have been thinking that I have been lying about working for the campaign, because that would be really cool if I worked for the campaign. They're thinking that would be really cool. I actually, there's no nice way to say this. I did something much, much cooler than that. If you want to think about it in the context of what is like cool or not, because that's kind of the vibe I'm getting in this conversation. So I was the grassroots strategist outside of the campaign. So I was doing grassroots strategy when the campaign wasn't doing strategy, from late 2015 all the way until the 2020 election. I did it all the way through the thing. I actually did more than the campaign, and more than I would have done if I had worked for the campaign. And if I had worked for the campaign, I wouldn't have been able to do all the things I did because the campaign didn't want to do them. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that the campaign did not want to go to the convention. The campaign did not want to go past New York. The campaign did not want to go to California. The campaign did not want to do anything. They were done. They were finished. All those people who worked in the campaign wanted to go work for Hillary. Jeff Weaver was on TV saying Hillary had already won. This whole thing was over. We were organizing a protest to fight against having our candidate chosen for us. And I organized that protest. And there were a lot of people involved at different phases of it who would have been seen at different times. There was the woman who handled all of the actual there were two groups that did delegate fundraising. One was the main group, and there was a woman who handled like the personal conversation. She was in our team for at least 80% of the primary. She was actually the person who got me on the road when I first started traveling around to meet everyone in person. So it was not organized in the campaign. It was organized outside of the campaign on no resources. So I wasn't paid to do it. I did it for free. It was a lot of work, and we raised a lot of money for all the delegates. I did all the strategy that we used to elect the delegates, to get the delegates there I did all of that. I came up with all those plans. That did not happen in the campaign.
And none of y'all might not know that it is not cheap to be a delegate at a convention at all.
Well, that was one of the ways they tried to rig
It's
it.
very expensive.
They jacked up the
Yeah.
hotel prices. There were like 5 people to a room because hotels were so expensive.
Oh shit! The Bernie people I was with, we were afford a room in a motel in Jersey. We
Yeah,
didn't stay anywhere near there.
I was in Jersey too.
Over the bridge from Philly.
Yeah, exactly. And then the GPS kept breaking, and it would like send you in a circle on the bridges. It was really annoying. It wouldn't let you like, I'm going here, and it would just I was on it for like an hour one time, being like, oh, I don't think this is working right. It was a crazy that weekend was crazy, but the whole week was just a wild thing. But I feel like you need to understand, like, when we say we organized it outside of the campaign, and Bernie was not a fan of me for doing it. Like, we're not like friends. Like, they don't like that I did that. We forced them to continue campaigning after New York. They did not want to do that. So, like, because the whole point was they had to get delegates in every state. And so that was the whole process. And so we were getting delegates, like, until the convention started, we were still funding the last delegates that were coming in California. That's why they canceled the count, because it was like the campaign was starting, or the actual convention was starting. And so what are you going to get more delegates after the convention's over? I mean, yes, first off, absolutely, but they wouldn't let us. So that was what happened. So, like, leading that was a much bigger deal than people who then just working for the campaign and being a strategist for the campaign. Now, I did do free strategy, mind you, for Bernie's campaign manager for the Senate, starting at when he was the executive director for Our Revolution. And we would talk for several years there on angle and direction, and it went really well when it went really well. It was kind of funny because it's like I put myself out of a job because no one thought Bernie was going to run in 2020 until I negotiated away which I did negotiate superdelegates away over 2 years when nobody told me to. I planned the whole thing on my own based on what happened at the convention with the whole buildup of delegates. The whole conversation was about getting rid of superdelegates, and I went to every DNC meeting. I like rigged up my social media to be connected to DNC members, talked about it non-frickin' stop, lobbied at all the DNC meetings, finally got a solution that they were willing to go with, then had to convince all the Bernie people that it was a real solution, because it was, still is. Then we had negotiations over the actual formation of the rule through live stream over several weeks, which I covered all of it was on Facebook, not Twitter. And we did all this to do things. So once that happened, and Bernie decided he was going to run again, like, no one knew on the Bernie side. Like, so the problem was, and this has been a continuous issue, is a lot of people. So we did all this organizing to make the delegates, but we didn't handpick the delegates. The delegates were people who got elected on their own. So we had organizers into the delegate conventions, and then the delegates got elected, and then your organizers that I was working with no longer became relevant because they were pushing to get people there, and they did not become delegates. Then they were not a part of the conversation anymore. So then you're dealing with all these delegates, most of which I did not know. So you're trying to organize delegate leadership and figure out who they were, which we did organize about 1,200 of the 2,000, a little over 2,000. We did get email and contacts for that many. And then when everything went to shit and Bernie said he was going to endorse Hillary and there was no plan to protest and no one knew what to do, I sent out the email from Revolution HQ to 1,200 delegates to explain how to protest properly. Like how to protest in your groups and use the different groups near you, because we'd come up with all these plans over the 6 months leading up to it, but we hadn't really reached anyone properly because the campaign tried to take over. And then it was the same thing in 2020 that happened when they finally decided Bernie was going to run because the superdelegates were removed. That I got closed out on because they didn't want me coming in and like leading from the outside again. And then my social media, my Facebook, which was my main way of communicating with people at the time, got closed down. I got a 3-month ban 3.5 months before Iowa. So when I would be normally coordinating and organizing and like getting people ready, I got completely shut out from all my social medias. And then I started building another Facebook, but I wasn't really connecting with the right people. I'd really meticulously planned that, like connecting with people over the build up of it. And then COVID was in the middle of happening at the time too, so it's just a huge mess. And then we tried to keep the campaign to go fight for more delegates. We tried, but the campaign and COVID just like broke everyone's spirits because they didn't have like a real grassroots operation, and they tried to micromanage everything too much. And I think that had a lot to do with what we had done in 2016, but it was successful. And that was kind of like the problem with 2020, because in 2016 they did cheat us. But in 2020, we had cleared it so that we could have like a fair election. And like Bernie and his team just trusted all the wrong people, got involved with all the wrong people, put all the wrong people into power. And this was like back to the delegate thing. It really came from, at the end of the day, the delegates that would get elected were popular. They weren't necessarily good people. So in California, now I was the California grassroots lead for this group called the Bernie Sanders Grassroots Family. And I was running all over the state, working with organizers, trying to figure out what was going on and how to get, because the state lead had gotten fired or quit or something, and then a new state lead came in. Oh yeah, I remember what happened. The state lead was upset about how Bernie campaign was handling the thing. So when Bernie came to California, he couldn't get through because the staff between Bernie and the California lead wasn't doing the job properly. They were intentionally fumbling the ball. So Bernie came off the stage to the California lead, handing him like a plan for California, and Bernie was like, "What the hell?" And everyone around was like, it was like skipping your thing to go talk to the president. You know, it's like a lieutenant colonel or something going to go talk to the main leader. It's a huge break in protocol. So he gets fired. This other guy gets brought in. He was awful. He didn't even talk to anyone or do anything. He just like held up in his office for several weeks. So I was the only person running around like organizing, and I was organizing with Bernie staffers in like 3 or 4 different parts of the state, trying to just get the word out, get whatever we could, figure out what was going on. That's how we knew the ballots were missing all over the state. That's how I know, because I was actually running conversations with all these people who are working all over. So we were like, there's this problem we were trying to solve day of elections. And so it's very traumatic. The whole thing's very traumatic, but we got a bunch of good changes. It was weird though, because the California delegates ran to Jane Sanders and just trashed me. Just absolutely trashed me. They were the ones, the last ones to get elected. I fought really hard for them to get elected. This was so the irony of like trying to help people, because originally Bernie was going to quit in New York, and he didn't quit because of a group of us got together who had been working on this stuff. There's a couple lawyers and someone who was close to the Bernie campaign, and we got word from one of the daughters that he was going to drop out. And so we got together and put together this thing trying to illustrate that he was being cheated, and we needed to keep fighting because it was about stopping the cheating in the future. That was like what we argued for. It was the whole like, this isn't your revolution anymore. This is this is literally what I said. It's not just your revolution anymore. And that's when our revolution got formed like the next day. But that was the conversation we sent him. We saw him with the papers. We saw him with my article and the other things that we'd sent him, is like, you know, when he's coming out being like, okay, we're going to keep going. Because remember, he had all the people, I don't know if you guys remember, but at New York, he got cheated because they wiped a ton of people from the voting rolls using the magnetic rolls. So this woman got in trouble. There was like an illicit sale of a brownstone for like way over market. There was all this super sketchy back scratching money getting tossed around, and then all these people disappeared from the roll, so people couldn't vote. So then we were trying to like correct votes and all sorts of stuff, because New York at the time had a 6-month voting process. You had to register 6 months in advance. So Bernie came in, so maybe it was longer too. It was really long, longest in the country. It's gone now. We got rid of it. But I'm not me personally, but people associated with the Bernie movement got rid of it. So basically, it was so if you got wiped off the rolls, there was no way to get you back on. It was a closed primary. So it was a huge issue. I know a number of people, like thousands and thousands. Like basically, what happened was they had a system where they would canvass you, and they would ask you on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you like Bernie Sanders? And basically, they wiped everyone who was like a 3 or higher. So if you were like on the fence about him, like they left you in, but like whole buildings got wiped. Like whole buildings, like a whole like giant skyrise of people voting because they all got canvassed by someone who lived in the building, and they all like Bernie because Bernie is from there. That's where he's from originally. He was in that area of New York, and they like the whole building couldn't vote. It wasn't like an isolated like 1 or 2. It was like hundreds of thousands of people were wiped off the voting rolls across various states. And if you had digital voting rolls, it was really easy because VAN, which is the Voter Access Network, is a system that the DNC uses to track voter data. Uses a tool called Vote Builder to like build your thing for your district. It gives them the ability to clean voting rolls multiple times a year in different states if they're digital. So it was part of the sales pitch on the program when they bought it. It was like one of the reasons it was worth getting was because you can clean voter rolls with it. So that's terrible, and that was kind of like the whole that ties into a whole bunch of other stuff. We get into like Seth Rich and Russian hackers. And just that story gets really convoluted and just unhinged, totally bonkers. But this stuff all happened. We lived through this while it was going on. And then, so all these people in California who I fought really hard for to become delegates basically they sold themselves to the Sanders campaign as like the leaders of the movement, even though they were the last ones to become delegates. And they were like really difficult all the time. They're just kind of power hungry. And so they went to Sanders' campaign and said that I didn't do anything I said I did. That was the beginning of people saying I didn't do what I said I did. And they weren't involved. None of them were delegates till the end. And the beef that they started with me was because one of the ways they tried to rig California was they tried to make it impossible for Bernie Sanders delegates to get delegate locations. So they started setting all these unhinged rules on how things could happen. So at the time, I was kind of going state from state, putting out whatever fire came up. A problem would happen. Okay, let's put out some range. I had control of a couple of big Bernie groups that were like probably 200,000 people, like, which is enough to like really do a lot. And so I'd get in there and I'd be like, hey, does anyone have this or that? And so we came up with needing locations in California. Now, I didn't know that this group was working on it. But all I knew was that they came to me and they said, we're short 5 locations. And I was like, no problem. Tell me where they are. I'll get you as many things as you want. And so I put a thing out, went to bed. I woke up to them screaming at me. These people who I had not talked to, who had asked me for help, who someone in their group had asked me for help, that they didn't need my help and how I was ruining everything and how they're just totally going off on me. And I was just like, you need locations though. You have locations. What's the problem? We have too many people calling us. It's so hard to organize. Like I did too good. And then they started deciding they were going to like destroy my life. Now this woman, the woman who was behind it all, who I can say her name's Katrina Bergstrom. Her actual real name. She actually showed up at a job interview that I had because I was working with a client. We were trying to unseat Nancy Pelosi, and I had been giving him really good advice for like 2 months for free already. And we were doing an in-person event to show him how I can handle an event. And she showed up right in front of me, lied about me viciously about all the things that I didn't do, and then convinced him not to hire me. And then they did that as a group, basically anywhere that I poked my head out in LA, trying to just work, get a job, whatever. They would follow me around and say all this stuff about me and convince that person not to hire me. And none of it was, they would just say literally whatever. And because they had gotten themselves into kind of like this leadership position, officially in California, that but they only got those leadership positions because I literally fought for them to have them. It's such a weird irony of like trying to do the right thing and how it comes back to bite you in the ass. And that has actually led to all the people saying I didn't do this stuff, where you have these people who are still running around being like, oh, well, you didn't work for the Bernie campaign. No shit, I didn't work for the Bernie campaign. I've never said I worked for the Bernie campaign. It's like the thing people say about me to undermine the stuff that I've done because it's an easily disprovable thing, but I never said that. They just assume that because I say I took on this role, as a volunteer outside the campaign. Like I crowdsourced and fundraised to get everywhere and do everything. Had nothing to do with Bernie. I was talking to Bernie's people and telling them what to do, and they were doing it, and they were having success when they listened. That's why the movement from 2015 to like 2019 was really, really good, because it was only after the Bernie, the superdelegate thing, where Bernie decides he's going to run, and then suddenly I got closed off from everyone that I was talking to that I had been helping. So it was sort of like the very act of doing the thing that propels the thing that I want ends up alienating me or putting people into power who are alienating to me. And they have no basis for this alienating. Like, now I'm kind of like gruff and pissed off all the time because I'm putting up with this bullshit all the time. So of course I'm mad. Are you fucking kidding me? How would you feel if you're like, I worked at Ralph's, and I'm like, no, you didn't. You never worked at a grocery store. Why are you lying about working at a grocery store? Well, I did it for several years. I learned a lot. It was really, no, you're lying. Why are you lying? Like, I've never heard of have you ever heard of someone going through that? Hey, I have this life experience that is cool, and here's all this proof, and they're just like, no, it didn't happen. You're a liar. And they're just using their credibility to destroy my life for no other reason than they're power-hungry maniacs. And that's the whole story about why, Bernie's camp didn't like me already because of doing the delegate thing and pushing them really hard and making them do stuff. And then they really didn't like me when they, found out that I've been talking to people, making all this good stuff happen around them. So, that's the whole thing. I think that's the thing that pisses me off the most. People are like, oh, you're just a Bernie cultist. I'm like, honestly, the dude treated me pretty terrible. Guy treated me really awful. Like AOC, I helped her get into office. I did all this work for her. She treated me awful. Treated me terribly. And that's sort of been the progressive movement in a nutshell. It's like you do everything to bend over backwards to help people, and they just treat you terribly. And that's the same thing in the COVID conscious movement, because here we are, we got a vaccine approved for the immunocompromised people, and even people I had someone the other day being like, I bent over backwards to get Novavax from Canada, but the way you talk about mRNA made me unfollow you. And I'm like, so I got you the best protection available. You had, this situation to improve upon, but you don't like how that doesn't matter, because you don't like how I talk about the thing that isn't protecting you, that we had to find a replacement for, that you are now getting. And so it really leaves you with this, there is no reward for doing good or helping people. As a matter of fact, it seems like the opposite is true. It seems like the more you help people, the less rewarding it is, and the more they take from you. That's been my experience. But, you don't make the world better. You don't not make the world better because some people in it are awful, and the awful people are always louder than the good people. So I can use good people to be a little louder, I think, is my takeaway here. Good takeaway. But it's a little bit of history, because people are always like, oh, well, you didn't do that thing. And, do you think I just made up this whole story? This whole life experience that happened? I wonder what is going on with people. But at the same time, we have people in the COVID conscious community who think nasal sprays don't work. I think that's the new, on a total pivot, by the way, because this is my second bone to pick with people, is that we have people who are actually saying nasal sprays don't work, and all the studies are proven false. How do you prove all of the studies false? Because there are mRNA studies. I don't like mRNA. There are studies that are perfectly good about it that prove all kinds of things. You know, how can you say all nasal sprays are bad? And I can't help but feel like there's this group of people in the COVID conscious community who just act like they care a lot, badmouth the people trying to protect you, and they're really just causing harm. And I feel like there's no distinction between an anti-vaxxer who says all vaccines don't work and a distinction between someone who is like nasal sprays, all nasal sprays don't work. You're just like, obviously, like, because here's the thing. My understanding is, and I'll open this up to the floor because I've been kind of yapping for a minute. We have studies showing nasal irrigation prevents infection, right? Like, we have studies demonstrating that if you just use like clean filtered water on your nose, it'll stop infection.
Yeah, I feel like I remember the saline stuff early on.
Yeah, am I hallucinating that? Is that not a thing? Because, you know, we know a lot about how COVID infects your upper respiratory tract. Because keep in mind, your lower respiratory tract is really protected by vaccines. Really, really protected. With Novavax, you have some upper respiratory tract, but it's like kind of deeper in the meat. It's not like on the surface as much. It is some on the surface, but not as much. And it takes longer for your immune system to respond in your nose. That's why these things are able to infect us. But what happens is you have these little, and we have great studies on this, where, and we're going to put something together on this because I'm sick of having to deal with people saying that this is just, it's like the new idiocracy problem. You have these little cell-like hair structures inside your sinus. Anyone want to look up what they're called? That'd be great. But they're in your nose, on your mucosa. And they look like hairs, but they're actually cells. And so when a liquid molecule, water... What's that?
Cilia, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's what they're called too. I know they're in your lungs as cilia. So what happens is you have this water molecule that is carrying a COVID viron, right? That COVID viron, that water molecule, not molecule, but water droplet, like very small aerosol, it pushes up against these things. Now, the viron has to move from the water it's in to an ACE2 entry point to enter the body and begin an infection. Okay, that's how it works. That process takes 2 to 3 hours. It is another like 12 hours for it to infect your sinus cavity, like to get into your nose and to start becoming a real infection. And then a day later from that, you start showing symptoms. Okay, so your immune system is very slow to react in your upper respiratory tract because it uses the different parts of your immune system called your mucosal immune system. It's different than where we normally vaccinate. It's just we haven't really been able to before, until Novavax, we've never been able to consistently get a mucosal and SIGA response in your upper respiratory tract from an intramuscular vaccine. It has not been possible. There are probably going to be some outlier examples where it's happened, but for the most part, it's not possible. That's why even with our current vaccines, you can still get infected, but the disease won't progress. So you can still get measles, but you're not going to get full-blown measles because you have the vaccine. It's sort of like, you know what I mean? Because that's just how we've been fortunate that's how most of the things we vaccinate against work. They have like slow incubation periods, so the vaccines have time to keep everything under control. It's the same thing as like the Hep B exposure at birth from Hep B positive mothers. You know, when you get that Hep B vaccine as fast as possible within the first 24 hours, it can fight off the infection. So it kind of works like a rabies vaccine, but on a shorter scale. So when you're talking about nasal sprays, you're talking about a couple of different mechanisms that have different levels of effectiveness depending on how you want to talk about it. You have just the irrigation principle. The irrigation alone is enough to block infection. Anyone who says it's not is lying to you. They don't know what they're talking about. It's a very dangerous conversation. Any disruption will block infection. Can block infection. Will not guarantee to, but it can. Now, when you talk about nasal... What's that?
It might also cut viral load, too.
Right, yeah. It could lessen the infection at the very least. You could still get an infection, but have less. Exactly. So you're already reducing your volume of infectious dose. At the very least. Then you have those layers of meat in your mucosa that different nasal sprays respond to differently. Enovid, for example, which is now no wonder in the US, is a nitric oxide spray. It delivers nitric oxide directly to your upper respiratory tract. Your immune system runs on nitric oxide. Anyone who says that delivering local nitric oxide will not work as an antiviral is lying to you. It's a very, very clear effect. Maybe it's hard to get the studies to prove it because it's hard to use right. That's true. You do need to deliver. A lot of people think with the nasal sprays, you're like snorfing it, like you like take a big hit of it or something like that. Like you're, trying to. Apparently, if you're RFK on a toilet seat. Yeah. Same thought.
We're going with the same joke.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you missed the first half of our call because we had a small delay, we really get into the RFK Kid Rock situation. Anyways, the point is, there is a point, I swear, is that these things, that has an antiviral property. It's hard to measure, it's hard to explain because we don't have good tools for measuring this stuff. All we know is that when people use it, they get infected less. You need to spray it on your mucosa, which is a little flap of skin, not take a big hit of it. That's the difference. If you're like hitting it like a sinus spray, you're not going to get the effects. That's why there's an irrigation effect, because if you're using it right, it should drip a little out of your nose. You should need a tissue to dab up when you're done, because there's a little leakage. Like that's so it's nasal irrigation at the very least. Then you have things like what are the big ones? The big ones are, we have the red algae spray, which has known antiviral properties, and then there's another one, and I believe that's the Viralese or whatever, that I don't actually know the mechanism of that one, but that one actually has the best data. That's like confirmed data because they got under a bunch of scrutiny. Point is that
Are you thinking of azelastine, the antihistamine?
No, I was
I
not.
think-
That's a separate thing that also comes.
Okay.
That's
Well,
'cause
that's the one that I know people have been talking about the most lately with the amount of data. So I
doesn't
would say
that
it's
work
that
during
one.
acute infection though? Like, doesn't that you hit that a little more like a sinus spray, and it has it doesn't have as much of a nasal spray effect, even though it is a nasal spray. It has more of a full body effect than a localized effect. Like, isn't that the one they use like during infection too? Am I thinking?
I mean, depending on who you ask, they're all during infection before. But I mean,
That's true. Nitric. Then I've heard plenty
Yeah.
of people have shorter infections just using Enovid, or I should say, no wonder now. So the point is,
right? But yeah, those are the three that I know. No wonder, the iota carrageenan and azelastine. Those are the three that have the most data.
okay, yeah, but these have passed scrutiny in multiple countries. So people being like, there's no data supporting that this is an effective use of whatever. It's like, there's tons of data and it's gone through a ton of regulators. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like one of those like, it's like the difference between me saying like mRNA is totally doesn't do anything, it's completely not useful, and saying it does a thing but it's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, and here's a replacement, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like there's too much like, no, it doesn't work at all. And then you just see these people who are like, I follow, because I'm on pretty active in all the different groups. I'm banned from a couple of them because of fucking horse shit. We'll get into another time, but I still look at them. And keep track of what people are talking about. And in like the zero COVID community, I feel like they've really convinced people that nasal sprays don't work. And that they've convinced people that some sort of mask replacement theory or something like that, like they're like running a Confederate flag with a respirator on it. Like, they just have the weirdest argument about why it shouldn't even be discussed. But then you see these people who are like, I did everything right, I did everything I was supposed to do, and I still got COVID. And you're like, yeah, because you didn't do everything you're supposed to do. What's your nasal spray? Like, nasal sprays don't work. And you're like, right. That's why you got infected, because you're a dumbass. Like the people who are saying nasal sprays don't work are dangerous. They are dangerous. In a world of one-way masking, the people who are saying nasal sprays don't work and are lying, straight up lying to people about it, are seriously putting, like, they're just getting more COVID infections, more long COVID, sending back more long COVID patients, more people will die, more virus will spread. Like, it matters. Like, you can say they're not that great. You can argue for their effectiveness. You could say whether or not someone is getting paid to do it. But to say that like there's no data and none of it is true and it's all fake is like, that's some real conspiracy theory thinking. And last I checked, nasal sprays were not in the Epstein files. So, you know, those are all the conspiracies that turned out to be right.
And no one ever said just use a nasal spray by itself. Don't use any other mitigation, and you'll be fine. Nobody said that.
But wouldn't you want people at the same token, like the people who won't mask, wouldn't you want them to do anything to reduce spread? And like if a nasal spray would even theoretically reduce spread, wouldn't you want them to do that?
Yeah.
Like it's not a replacement. It's not a but, it's an and.
Yeah.
Terry?
I'm going to say our former chair of the Democratic Executive Committee in Pinellas County felt that she couldn't wear a mask because of her position in Florida being the idiotic state it was. But she did use nasal spray. That's what she could do at that time where she was. So at least she did something. That's all she could do.
There is an awareness that comes with that too. Like you get desensitized to not wearing masks around people again. I feel like at least you're like, okay, it's been like an hour and a half. I gotta hit the nasal spray to like do whatever. Like, it at least gives you like an awareness. You'll stand a little bit of ways. Like, it puts it in the back of your mind. So it's certainly better than nothing, but it certainly does not replace a respirator. And you know, respirators. I mean, if you're like all Novavaxed up, you don't have to wear the firmest. Like, you can get a comfortable respirator unless you're in like a crowded space. You know what I mean? You can definitely make it more comfortable. But I do feel like, side note, because we're going to be wrapping here around a little longer on the whole explanation of things. But, you know, I feel like there's this TikToker called Laughter and Light. And it seems like everyone just discovered that she's a COVID minimizer. And welcome to the party, pal. Because she's been minimizing COVID for several years already. So her coming out saying that people don't have to wear masks all the time, everywhere they go. I mean, I feel like if people don't want to wear masks and they want to take that risk, that is a personal choice. You have the right to make that choice. I do think that going online and advertising that it's the right way to do things, I feel like is, I don't know, like faux pas. But then again, a lot of people do want, you know, of their followers, they're people who think the same thing that they do. So they're thinking like, you know, oh, this is reaffirming how I feel. I just don't feel like I need to wear it. And you're like, well, you probably should. Because I can't help but feel we're seeing a lot of people, like, die faster than usual. Even Eric Dane died today from Grey's Anatomy of ALS. He gave his, he got his diagnosis less than a year ago, and he's gone.
So fast progressing ALS.
Yeah, it's super fast. And then we also got what's his name from Dawson's Creek? Just James Van Der Beek just died. He did kind of have like a little longer cancer treatment. It wasn't looking great, but his TikTok,
48 years old, young.
yeah, he's only a couple years older than me. His TikTok about not starting the new year until later in the spring, the night before he died, was especially like.
It's not the night before.
It was 2 nights. Well, wasn't it?
No, it was the very beginning of January.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay. Okay. My wife corrected me. Apparently, I'm not up on the TikToking. Well, it didn't make it to my TikTok until the day after he died, so I'll just say that and stick with that version of the story. Thanks for the correction, though, hun.
No, you don't want to be incorrect, do you?
Sometimes it's funny. But there's nothing funny about these people dying of cancers advancing super fast out of nowhere, because that's sort of the thing I think that everyone is sort of missing about COVID. And this is where we've really gone wrong. I mean, I blame not the MECF patients, but the MECFS leadership groups for putting together too much with that long COVID and MECFS were the same thing, and that all long COVID was MECFS, because it really opened this door for people to not realize that, like, if you have ALS moves that fast, it might be COVID associated. If you have rare cancers that come out of nowhere super young, yeah, COVID might be associated. Those are long COVID. It's just, that's immune dysregulation. And I feel like this is what I feel like when we talk about, like, we're at that stage of HIV where people are dying of pneumonia. And they're still trying to say, no, it's not the HIV, it's just they have pneumonia. And you're like, no, it's the progression of the disease. And these diseases progress differently because they affect our immune systems differently, but that's what it's going to look like. Now, is every case of it? No. But every case that moves faster, or it's going to change how every case works. People were still going to get cancer, but now they're going to have less of a window to get better. It's going to be more lethal. It's going to be progress quicker. It's going to go to stage 4 faster. You're going to have less time to respond. And that's the thing I think people don't get. It's like we have a good window where we've been catching cancer earlier, and we can treat a lot of it, and that window is going to close. And that's what COVID is doing that people don't understand. Ending on a high note tonight, as you can see. But I do want to say we are pushing for 2 things. We want to advocate, and I said this in the first call. We had a little internet disruption at my house, but we're still advocating for an earlier COVID vax update. So they need to come out earlier to match with the school season, and then we want to start pushing on pharmacies to stop pulling the vaccines in the middle of the month when their expirations at the end of the month. There's no reason there's no reason the expiration on these vaccines couldn't be extended. Germany does it every year. Other countries do it every year. There's no reason they can't have their deadline extended, so pulling them early makes no sense. It's just wasting. It's a bad use of resources, if nothing else. Also, they're losing a customer base that might come in and buy other shit. So that's going to be kind of the push on that. And then hopefully I'm looking for round 2 of the RFK Kid Rock heated rivalry. You know, what do you think? What do you think their next grotto drink shall be, Jesse?
They're gonna have a different drink next time?
I'm just saying. I don't know. I assume they're gonna. They might bring in the actual cow next time and just drink right from the udder. Oh, he's gonna be. Where did you say that spill was happening? I assume they'll just take it.
Potomac, and he likes to swim there. You know,
yeah, exactly. We're going to catch him swimming in the Potomac just to make a point. I say, you know what? I say he prove his point. I say he swim in all the dirty water he can find and build up that immune system. I say go get him, champ.
It doubles as a ice bath.
Knock some more of that cocaine off the toilet seat while you're at it.
I assume they wipe the toilet seat off, or maybe you're into that. I don't know. How dirty are people's thighs? Pretty gross. Pretty gross.
That notes.
Who turns to a podcaster and he's like, you know, I used to do cocaine off a toilet seat, so I'm not really bothered by this other disgusting thing we're talking about that everyone has now forgotten because you're talking about. Oh, man.
He was saying that because he's saying he's not afraid of germs. It's like, and that's why COVID didn't really freak him out.
Okay.
I like
that
to
was
get
the lead
inside people and wear them like a skin suit. That's the best way. I feel like we're like 2 inches from that conversation. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we talked about everything we were going to talk about. Our government is an embarrassment. I think I want to take away one thing I want to say about the Moderna thing is that I was kind of like sounding a little too much like I agreed with right wingers on that issue, but Moderna did actually fix the problem that I was pointing out. I do want to say also that broken clocks are right twice a day, and just because Moderna has caught the ire of the anti-vaxxers does not mean Moderna is a good company operating in good faith, okay? So let's go ahead and keep that straight. There can be 2 villains in this story. Just because you hate the one doesn't make the other one good. That's I feel like something that people on the Democrat like Tom was Massey, right? Massey seems like he's standing up against Trump. He seems like he might actually be helpful to the left. No, he is not your friend. Massey is not your friend. Don't get confused. Well, first off, he's a politician, but he's also a Republican that votes with him, and 91% of the time he says or whatever. Yeah. So it's like he believes evil shit too. Like he doesn't think people should have rights. He thinks awful stuff. He just doesn't think the president should be violating the Constitution, which, I mean,
which is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, the bar is low. The bar is low. The bar is currently in hell, and they're playing limbo with it. Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts, guys, before we get out of here? We're here on Mondays and Thursdays. Anybody?
18333. Oh, did I do too many threes? 1833 stop war. Call it tomorrow.
Hey.
Yeah, call it. Yeah, because apparently we're not supposed to go to war with Iran. because the Congress didn't vote.
Well, the president or whatever of the IOC said if we do go to war with Iran, we'll be barred from participating in the next Olympic Games, which are in LA.
Well, they really said that?
I just saw that on X. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I would love it if we got barred from our games that we had to hold. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen here.
Oh, Los Angeles. I'm ready for that fire. All right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll see how it goes. We will be back on Monday, probably around this time. Maybe we'll have a good internet connection. Who knows? That's the fun. We don't know. That's it. I'm done. Okay. Have a good one.